Good morning, Year 4. This is your Wednesday's maths lesson. Today we're going to be learning all about telling time. So our TLP is, can I read and write time on a 12-hour analogue clock? So in a minute we're going to have a go at making our own clocks. But first, if you can, go to the description of this video and there is a link to another video that I would like you to watch that will teach you a little bit more about telling the time.
We are going to make some clocks that look a little bit like this one. If this looks a bit confusing right now, don't worry, because we're going to talk lots about it in this video. So what you will need is one piece of paper to draw your clock onto, something to draw around. So I've been using this bowl, which I can turn upside down and draw around to make my clock, but you could use anything that's round. Some scissors to cut it out, a pencil to draw around with, and if you've got a straw, you could use a straw for the hands of your clock, or you could use pipe cleaner or toothpicks or anything you've got at all, doesn't matter. So pause the video now and make sure you've got all of these things. Now, the first thing we have to do is draw around our round thing, whatever it might be. So we've got a nice circle, like that. And then you need to cut out your circle. So now hopefully you've got a circle a bit like this one. Remember, you could always ask an adult or somebody in your home to help you with the cutting if you need. Next, we're going to fold our circle in half. So exactly like I'm doing, you can do exactly like I'm doing. So we fold it in half, and then we're going to take one of the corners of our semicircle and fold it in half again. And that way, when we open it back up, we've divided our clock into perfect quarters. Now we're going to write in the hours. Okay, so at the top here, we write 12. Then at the side, where your line is, where you've just folded it, I'm going to write a 3. And then at the bottom, we've got a 6. And at this other fold, this other line, we write 9. If you look carefully, you might notice that 6 is half of 12, isn't it? Halfway down our clock. So now we need to add in the rest of the numbers. So we need to add a 1 and a 2 between the 12 and the 3. So we need to think roughly, where will our two numbers go to space them out evenly? So I'm going to put a 1 sort of closer to the top and then a 2 a bit lower down. And we're going to do this again here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, next is 4, isn't it? So again, we're going to need to write two numbers. So we've got 4 and 5. And we're going to carry on doing the numbers just like that. And we can add a dot in the middle. And now we have our clock with all the hours on there. So this is a 12-hour clock that we're making. So a whole 24-hour day will go twice around this clock. Now we need to make some hands for our clock. So if you've got a straw or whatever you've got that's straight, we can cut it into 2. And remember that the two hands are not equal in length. So hopefully you've got 2 hands for your clock. I've coloured mine in just so it's easy for you to see. So you can see that one is much longer than the other. So the minutes hand is much longer than the hours hand.
Mrs. Keeley and Mrs. Brooman taught me a really cool way to remember this. So if you look at the length of our two hands, the minute hand is much longer and the word minute is also much longer, isn't it? And our hour hand is much shorter and our word hour is also much shorter. So that can help you remember which hand is which.
So as you hopefully saw in the other video, the hours hand points to the hour and tells us what hour it is. So if our hour hand points like that, what hour is that? That's right, it's 2, isn't it? And our minutes hand points to the minutes. So if the minutes hand is pointing to the 12, that means it's o'clock. So our hours hand here is pointing at the 2, and our minutes hand is pointing at the 12, so it is 2 o'clock. If the minutes hand is pointing to the 6, remember 6 is half of 12, we talked about that, didn't we? Oh, if I can get them to stay. That means it's half past. Yeah, half of the clock. 6 is half of 12, half past. So this means 2:30. And actually, when it's half past, the hours hand needs to be halfway between the 2 hours. Yeah, the one it's coming from, the one it's going to. So it's 2:30, it's halfway towards the 3. Right, let's have a go at some times together and see if you can guess the ones that I'm making. Let's see, what time does that say? So our hours hand is pointing to the 7, that's right, and our minutes hand is pointing to the 12. Brilliant. So it is 7 o'clock. Good job. What about this one? So our hours hand is halfway between the 9 and 10, and our minutes hand is pointing to the 6. So what time do you think that is, Year 4? That's right. It's 9:30. So now we've had a bit of practice with the hours, let's add some minutes to our clock. Now who knows how many minutes are in 1 hour? That's right, 60 minutes. So instead of writing all 60 minutes, what we're going to do is count our minutes in 5s. And we're going to write each of our minutes in line with our hours. So we're going to start with 5, counting up with 5s. Please help me, Year 4. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Make sure you're putting this on your clock as well. 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and then although this could say 60, we're actually going to get it to start with a 0, but we know that it would be 55, 56, 57, 58, 59 minutes, and then 60 minutes to reach the full hour. Let's use our clock hands to have a look at the minutes together. So we know that this is 12 o'clock. Well done, because our hours hand is pointing to the 12 and our minutes hand is also pointing to the 12, so it's o'clock. Now looking at our minutes, if I move the minutes hand to there where it says 5, that would be 5 minutes past 12. What do you think it would be if I move the minutes hand to the 10, Year 4? That's right, 10 minutes past 12. Now, if I move the minutes hand to the 15, could be called 15 minutes past 12. People do say that, don't they? Or sometimes we call it quarter past, because 15 is a quarter of 60. So 15 minutes is a quarter of 1 whole hour, 60 minutes. Yeah, so when our minutes hand is pointing to the 3, or there might be a 15 there to show the minutes, you can see it, that means it is quarter past. Okay. So if I moved my hours hand to here, and we know this is quarter past, because the minutes hand is pointing at the 3, what time does the clock now say? That's right, 1:15, because the hour's hand is pointing to the 1. Yeah, we're looking at the bigger numbers when we're talking about the hour's hand. So the other really important time that we need to know is 1:45. Some of you already might know. Have a go on your clock at making the clock say 1:45. So, if this is 1:15, this is 1/2 on the 6. Our final quarter, 1:45, is when the minutes hand points to the 9. So this says 1:45.
If you look closely, you can see that the hour hand is just before the 12. So as it's 1:45, we aren't quite at the hour of 12 yet, so the hour hand has not fully reached the 12 yet.
Let's see, Year 4, if we can do some times together. So on your clock at home, could you try and make your clock say 8 o'clock? See if you can beat me. So I've got my hours hand pointing to the 8 and my minutes hand pointing to the 12. Well done. Could you make your clock say 10:30? So our minutes hand, where's it going to go? That's it, pointing to the 6. And our hours hand in between the 10 and the 11. Yeah, it's 10:30. It's halfway between 10 and 11. Could you make your clock say 3:15? So where was 3:15? Do you remember? That's right. Our minutes hand needs to point to the 3. And as it's 3:15, our hours hand also needs to point to our big 3, doesn't it? Good job. One last one. Can you make your clock say 7:15? Well, our minutes hand needs to point to the 9, doesn't it, for 2:15? And if it's 7:15, my hours hand is going to be just before the 7. I'm hoping yours looks like that too. So now, Year 4, for your activity, think about the things that you do in the day. So get up, have breakfast, do your Zoom meeting and your bedtime, and think about what time those things happen. And see if you could show an adult or somebody else in your hand the times of your timetable throughout the day. And then make sure you bring your clocks to the Zooms later so we can all play with them together. If you would like a bit more practice telling the time, in the description there is a link to some games. Well done, everyone.